All right, I call the Planning Board of the Village of Rhinebeck to order for June 18, 2024. We're going to jump the queue for a quick item and go to Isabella here at 104 East Market Street, who wants an approval for a variance for an HVAC system heat pump. It was granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals, so our job is just to approve it and let her build it. So if anybody has any questions or not, all right, do I have a motion to approve the HVAC system for 104 East Market Street?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second Darren.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, get home safely, and I'm sorry to have to come, but it's the rules. Them's the rules.
Right, thank you.
Okay? All right, second item on the agenda is 20 Garden Street.
Public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Ryan tells me we have not yet received escrow if we need.
No, that's not correct, Chair.
Yeah.
We have received escrow, we have not received a report back from Ty
From Ty and Bond.
That's what
Okay,
we're
so we're
waiting.
gonna have to open the public hearing and then wait till we hear from Ty and Bond if everything is okay with what you submitted, okay? So do you have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll motion, Jeff. I'll second it, Mike.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Before Warren makes his presentation for the third time, does anyone here for the public hearing on 20 Garden Street? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to leave the public hearing open till the next time and not close it. Is that,
You know, you
I
don't
made-
need to do that.
I don't need to, we just leave it open?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Warren, so first thing we have to do is we have to declare lead agency. Can I have a motion to declare lead agency?
I'll make the motion, Darren.
I'll second it, Mike.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And a neg deck, do we have any problems with the vacant lot being?
Well, it's not vacant, there is a building existing.
Oh, this is, I'm sorry, I was thinking about the one after that.
The county did chime in that it's a matter of local concern. I would suggest to the board that we wait until we hear from Ty and Bond before you guys vote on anything to do with seeker.
Okay, then we'll wait on that. So, you're going ahead with this, we want to show things and talk for a minute about it, or?
Sure, I sent some updated renderings to Ryan and they got to you. But
Okay, which one would you like to start with?
Warren, you guys want to just introduce yourself?
yes, thank you for it. I waited for you. Yeah, I'm Warren Smith, architect. I have May Street here, the owner of the property. This concerns the building at the corner of Garden Street and the adjacent plaza. Right now, it's a one-story building with Happy Tails, I believe, dog grooming. In the past, it's been a hair salon, I think a comic store for a while. It's been a number of different things.
That's correct.
And it is immediately adjoins the building where Bun's Burgers is, which has an apartment above it. So they're actually the same building, but they're two different footprints built at two different times. And the plan is to replace that corner building with a new two-story building, essentially the same footprint, but to sort of clean up. Right now, it's an old building with two different floor levels. One is up a few steps from grade, and one is down a few steps from grade in the back. It makes it kind of an awkward footprint to use, and the plan is to get one level at the main level grade, and then have an apartment above it, accessed from the rear corner, which is the southwest corner. So since the last meeting I had with you, I think I relayed to Ryan the fact that the historic district records indicate this property is not of any significance, not a contributing structure. And the other thing we did is we took another look at the elevations, particularly the facade facing Garden Street. And there was a question about whether some additional details there could help tie it into the adjacent building, porch in front of Bun's. So we did that, and the most recent renderings that I sent, which I think Jeff probably has.
Right, and this is the item you were referring to that shows this is not a contributing building.
I believe so.
Yes.
Right,
So we don't have to have that historic demolition.
right, that's correct.
So which one do we like to look at, the elevations?
Yeah, it should be, well, actually, renderings, and I don't know if I sent those separately or entirely new sets.
The
So if
bottom
you
one.
Okay.
Go down to the bottom one. Yeah, so that's the facade facing Garden Street proper. There was a question about the open corner with the arcade that sort of matches the one across the plaza in front of Sunfrost. So we kind of picked up on that theme with another pilaster at the corner closer to Buns. We're sort of bracketing the two-story element. We made the ground floor retail windows larger, and we introduced a stronger horizontal band with a shadow line, again, to relate it better to the porches, both on the adjacent building there to the south as well as around the corner. There are two other elevations as well, one looking from across the plaza, sort of diagonally across, and then there's one other sort of around the backside where you see the porch over the residential entry. So that's pretty much the substance of the
It looks very nice because
changes
it
here.
looks like the sunflower across the street. It matches the Bia and the Japanese restaurant, and it delineates the sidewalk from the street.
Right.
In fact, people parking up against that building, in fact, the building's in the street, basically, and now it moves to the curb and column and stuff to make it, it's really a nice design. And we're having the public hearing because they're adding an accessory apartment upstairs and we need to get public input if people do or do not want an accessory apartment in this building at this site. So,
I have a general comment. Garden Street, that whole section of our village is, in my opinion, by far the most interesting section, and because it used to be a real market. And I hope that all of the homeowners would sort of collectively get together and form a new community consisting, among others, apartments and the little shops like Gin's Repair, that sort of thing. And that would bring the village back to a village.
I agree.
And there are some very influential owners in that section. I hope that that's what you do because it has great potential.
I agree, and thank you
Yeah.
for saying that. We'd also be, we've been trying for a couple of years,
And
just
if
throwing
you
out to get.
Want any landscaping
Yeah,
advice?
we've done a lot of
I'm very glad to
Yeah, we've
provide.
done a lot of landscaping, and the road.
It's a great walking area. It's the only walking area in our village. And
agree.
it has lots of,
Yep,
it reminds me, I come from Amsterdam, and one of those buildings in particular reminds me of a 1600 building in the center of Amsterdam, and I just love that area.
yeah.
So that was my comment.
And we've been, one of the things we'd like to do, and just throw this out, that we've been trying to do for a couple of years, is to get Garden Street
Right.
paved, because while it is a great area and a great section of the village, the fact that the road going in is
Yes,
such a mess.
it is. It's terrific.
It would be great to get that paved.
but you know,
I know that's not for you guys, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
Now, I've said many times that people say it's the business district. I say it's also the residential district. There are people living above most, and those tend to be more affordable apartments, living above a store on Market Street or one of the main business streets because it's not as desirable as living further out in the village. And so it provides some affordable housing. That's why I always like that we have all these stores.
Yeah, and plus it has the added fact that Garden Street is also, while it's in the center of the village,
Yeah.
you don't have all the traffic and all the
That's right.
noise that you have at the center of
The
the
only
village.
problem is it is a dead end.
It is.
And it is like to get into the health food store and back out again, sometimes it'll be quite challenging. There's no way out. It should have been, other than just demoing Michael's house or going out through the Beekman Arms area.
Use the Delamar,
Which we don't
yeah.
need either, you know. Delamar, let's not look at that, you know, kindly. So,
So for context, this is the existing Buns restaurant. This is the proposed new end. This is looking at it, if you were in front of the Natural Foods grocery, looking across the parking lot, this would be a commercial on the bottom, residential on the top. Is there a lighting plan?
Well, there is lighting under the arcade,
Uh-huh.
that's good.
and I suppose depending on the nature of the retail business it goes in, they may want to have an application to have a light at the door, but the sidewalk is lit from above. And that's it.
Okay, under this arcade here.
Mhm.
Mhm. And I guess one of the things we talked about last time was confirming the parking requirements.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So
I got that.
You got that? Yeah, so I did we calculated the requirements for all the uses there, and I think John Clark had suggested that we prepare a sort of analysis of what businesses and other tenancies there use parking at what times. And what I found was the highest use at any time was basically on a weekend, Thursday through Saturday, and that was 34. And that's, you know, showing the overlap of what's open when, including the residents being home and so forth. And we have 36 spaces now. So it seems to me that we're accommodating the parking required for the uses of this property, not necessarily for people in upstate or at Gabby's or somewhere else. But it looks like we have actually sufficient parking
We had
based on the
talked
use
about
of
this
all.
some years
Yeah,
ago.
we did.
We said
Yeah.
the restaurant is open for dinner, Sunflower closed at 5 or 6 o'clock, so there's an overlap there.
That's correct.
And, you know, and it's all irrelevant because people come in and park wherever they want
That's
to
it.
park, and you can't control that. They
That's
park in CVS parking lot, they park wherever they can find parking, and parking is of course.
A high percentage of the people that park there, because we did I don't know if you remember, David, we did a parking analysis, a report we did, a traffic type study for
A
the
long time
parking
ago,
lot
yeah.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I think about 60% of the people on the weekend that are parking in that lot are not going to the restaurants and taking part of the businesses that are in our little strip area. They park their cars and then they walk into the village from there. They use it as kind of a municipal parking lot. Even with signs up that we have saying that you'll be towed, it still does not deter people from parking there.
Right. So I'm not sure where to go, but we have to wait until we get something from Ty and Bond saying that everything looks okay with building that two-story building at that location. And I don't know, do you have any more questions you'd like to know now? Anybody has?
Just a question, on your analysis on apartments, what does this line represent?
That represents the time of anticipated use or demand for parking. So we're assuming that people in the apartments on weekdays may be somewhere else during the day, whether they're working or doing something else, but they're always going to be there in the evening through the morning.
So those apartments are where?
Those are
Above all the
upstairs, on the
stores.
second floor above Sunfrost, above
Okay.
Buns, above the proposed structure.
So there's multiple, that accounts for multiple existing apartments and
That's
the
correct.
addition of the
And
one
one.
unit
That's right.
that you're proposing
Got
to.
apartments above Sunflower,
Yeah.
there's, you know, apartments everywhere back there.
But just to clarify, with this proposal, the net increase in parking requirement is one space.
That's correct.
Right, because we're adding one
We're adding
apartment.
one apartment.
The retail's pretty much a net even.
It's the same.
I think you showed it as a negative, but it's actually growing, right? It's growing by a few feet?
It's, well, because we took out of the retail the entry and stairs for the
Okay.
apartment.
So it's actually shrinking a little
Essentially, it's a
bit.
slight.
Which doesn't move the needle on the retail.
It does not.
But the net increase in parking requirement, if you read the code,
It's the one apartment.
is just one apartment, so
That's-
one additional parking space.
That's right.
And your point is that it's functioning today, and then there's some trade-off with daytime and nighttime uses based on your chart. So we're not talking a massive increase in
We're not.
in
And
parking
that's,
requirement.
and that's this here,
Plus one.
plus one.
Just one.
We haven't had a resolution of the dumpster enclosure 18 garden from when we approved that, and then the 2 dormers that went on. The conversation at the meeting was, our practice is that any new construction has to have basically an attractive garbage enclosure of either wood or masonry, and not stockade and not chain link. And Colnaghy, 10 feet over from the blue can that's there, is a nice example. Mirabou is a nice example. And we were told you'd be back at some point, and that's never happened. So that's still kind of outstanding from that property that we need to.
What's that? I'm confused.
You have a dumpster enclosure at 1618, right here, Stevens. When you were here the second time for the amended site plan, I brought up that our practice as a board is to make sure that the dumpster enclosures are attractive when seen from the street, and they have to be of a high-quality wood or masonry construction. And 10 feet over, that's what we made Colnaghy do at 47 West Market Street. That's what we made Mirabou do. And right now, you just got an open can, which is...
Well, Michael, first of all, it could be moved so you couldn't see it from the street, number one. Number two is, the main reason that it's just an open dumpster is because there's really no retail customers using it. It's primarily 1, 2, 3 older people, including my mother, who's 84 years old, the lady underneath her, who's, I think, in her 80s. And I think it would be really difficult for them to have to navigate and go through the process of opening a wooden door, then flipping the thing open, just trying to make it as easy as possible.
No, it is easy for them, but it's not really an attractive to that either. That
I
site
agree.
and this was the conversation that we had a few years back, and we were told you'd be back with something, and then...
I don't remember that, but I certainly take you at your word, and that's certainly,
I mean, Colnaghy's the same way. They have to go straight in, they open the doors, it goes in, and
Yeah.
then they
similar
back out.
to
I mean,
what I have over at Sunflower in that main plaza where we're proposing to put this building up. Are you saying that it's a prerequisite of us getting approved for this, is putting a dumpster, a thing over the dumpster? Or can we just slide the dumpster over so that it can't be seen from the roadway?
That's part of a vote from all of us, I would guess.
And is that, yeah, I guess that's.
No,
what-
it's just that our policy is always when an applicant who owns multiple properties comes in with a new concept for one of the properties, and there's something left over from the old property that was supposed to be done but wasn't done, it's our chance to say, by the way, you didn't fix the sidewalks all along the way, could you please do that? You promised to do that, something like that. And we've done that in the past. So could you think about something or look at it and then let us know
Yes.
when you come back for the approval in the 16th, I guess?
So then at this site here, these are existing. This is the proposed new, commercial on the bottom, residential on the top.
Right.
Right? Where are the recycling and garbage handled?
Up there on the, see that circle right there, you got your finger on.
Right here.
Yep.
So what is that? What is it? Is it a dumpster or?
2 dumpsters.
2 dumpsters.
Yeah, one for corrugated or cardboard, and the other one for trash, basically. And there's also 2 grease, or 1, I think now, grease holder container type things to the left of that.
And that's what Buns uses and what
Correct.
Coleman uses as well?
Exactly.
So so what's the purpose of the lattice between the new building, well, the lattice that shows up in a couple of the renderings on the side of the building, is that just for the HVAC units?
It was for lines going up the back.
Yeah, we have.
But there's nothing actually, it's not concealing anything?
No,
There's
nothing
else
at all.
behind
There's,
there.
Considering the fact that no windows in the first floor there, but basically it's something for,
Okay.
just
a
for
lattice
line
and then climbing roses.
No, I think it's really nice. I was just
Yeah.
trying to understand if there was a
Sure.
proposal to store trash cans behind there or anything.
No. That's right against the building.
Could,
It looks like it's away from the building, but it's literally 6 inches off the building.
okay. Could, to Michael's point, could those tenants in the apartments potentially use the same dumpster at Sunflower and eliminate a dumpster from the site?
Well, my mom, not that it's the longest walk in the world, but if you're 80 plus years old and not in the greatest condition physically, and you're carrying garbage cans, it's a little
We had
better.
that original conversation a couple of years back, and at the time, it was open between the two properties, but now there's a fence there, so you would have to go out and go around, and then go all the way to the back, so it'd be pretty,
Or just maybe a rolling can. It's before my time, so I'm just trying to understand the issue. And, would a rolling can even work at this point if there's just a rolling can, not a dumpster?
Like a large plastic bin.
Yeah, like a Welsh sanitation, like what everybody.
Like a
does.
garbage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then 96-gallon toter.
Yeah, definitely could do that.
In place of just a metal
Yeah,
dumpster.
That would be
definitely.
easier for
That's
people
easy.
to lift up, it's much lighter and smaller.
Yes,
I mean, would
that would actually be.
adequate, Michael, if they were able to just do that?
that depends
Yeah.
upon what the people in that building generate, you know.
It's
But
very
it sounds
little.
like very little.
It is very little.
Yeah.
It's usually about a quarter of the way full when they pull it. So, yeah, that would definitely work.
Can you think about it and
Yes, of course.
make a suggestion next time to us?
Yes.
Save you $100 a month.
True. Well,
That's right, it's a lot of money. Anybody have any other questions that we'd like Warren to look into in the next couple of weeks? Okay.
No, I'm just going to look at my notes real quick. I think parking's the big thing. Yeah, and I appreciate the changes you made to the architecture. I think it's, a nice step in a good direction. The only thing that jumps out at me is potentially the roof line, where you have these two roofs intersecting one another. And I don't know, it's hard to tell from a rendering, but to my eye, I think it might date itself to the year it's built, as opposed to looking like individual buildings that are separate from one another that sort of grew over time the way a village does. So just as would you consider for next time, potentially even just something as simple as a copper valley to divide those two roof lines. So where there's this big intersection, we don't go sea of asphalt to sea of asphalt. And I think that might go a long way to sort of pulling this corner building into its own conversation. And rather than this one massive building that you couldn't have built 100 years ago because we didn't have the building technology to do it on such large spans.
Right here.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Aesthetically, that would be much, much nicer.
And then just in general, I'd personally be in favor of anything that even further distinguished that building from its neighbors. I know there's some differences of opinion on that, but stylistically, I see you have some options to play with on that corner building. It's technically something we have to consider in terms of massing and form and ornamentation because of what it is, but it is a new build, so I think you have, some things you can play with. So if there was something you wanted to do in terms of siding reveals or more trim on it or differentiating the columns to make it its own thing, I'd even go as far as to say, I'd be in favor of something monochromatic on that corner building because I think there's a historic precedent for that as well. But again, just off the cuff comments, because I think it is an interesting street. So, and nothing that we can require, but just a sort of like, to my eye, that building, it turns the corner and it could be something different if you wanted. And I think it would be appropriate in the village for it to be different and might read a little less like it was built somewhere between 1990 and 2024, if it did. But I think it's nice and strong.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll see you next month. And
And what are we're waiting a time?
we're waiting on a tie and bond to make sure there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. It's a two-story building or a one-story building, whether it doesn't affect drainage or whatever else they think they have to look at it. Okay?
Very good.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you after the 4th.
Thanks, Warren.
Okay, Warren is staying.
I'm staying.
37 Mulberry Street. Now, this is a vacant lot now, the building was torn down, and Warren is proposing a new building go up, and we're not here to talk about the new building. We're here because behind the new building is going to be an accessory apartment. So we're required again, just like we just had, to have a public hearing on the accessory apartment, for 37 Mulberry Street. So we have a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second, Jeff?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, is there anybody here to talk about 37 Mulberry Street?
Yes, Mr. Chair, to the sign-up sheet, we have a Zelma Barrett, 39 Mulberry Street, Rhinebeck.
Okay, then I would like Warren to make a brief introduction to what the building is going to look like, and particularly the accessory apartment. To note, we had a question because the limit on accessory buildings in the backyard is something like 530 square feet, I think it is. And they're building a garage, accessory apartment, and then a pool house to go in front of the pool. And that came up to 700 something square feet, I think it is. But the zoning enforcement officer said that you're allowed to have 3 accessory buildings in the backyard. And so he considers the fact that the 3 of them are glued together not to be a factor that prohibits what they're doing, and that he considers the garage to be one part, accessory dwelling to be a second part, and then the pool house, which is really just it has a little play area and a bathroom and a refrigerator and a sink where you come out of the pool and get something cold to drink. So the pool pumps and stuff will be elsewhere.
Is that an accessory apartment next to or on top of the garage?
It's between.
It's between, okay.
We're going to show pictures of
Sure,
it.
they're there now, yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm Bill Warren Smith, and I'm here representing Laura and Carlos Charles, who proposed to build a residence on Mulberry Street to replace one that was taken down by previous owners a few years ago. This structure shown is at the end of the driveway, about midway back in the lot, and it is a 2-foot garage sort of facing the street at the end of the driveway. Then there's a little porch extension roof over the entry to the accessory dwelling unit in the back for an aging parent. And then around the back corner, which you can't see in that view, but you can see in the final view, there is a small pool house with a pool equipment enclosure to the right of that. And that's simply a place to probably store lawn chairs and so forth. There's a sink and a mini refrigerator in there, but it's not large enough to hold more than a couple of people at a time, and it's certainly not an accessory dwelling unit. The very first sheet in the set, Jeff has the site plan that sort of shows where everything, and that's the plan of the building. So you can see the garage on the left, the entrance to the both the garage and the accessory dwelling unit there in the middle on the bottom. That's a living area, bedroom, small kitchen and bath, and then the pool house behind that with a half bath, changing area, and then a pool equipment enclosure at the corner there. So those all form the
And there is that staircase in the middle goes up to some storage space.
goes up to storage loft that's above the garage, right? And that has low ceiling for most of it, so not terribly useful space, but. Yeah, so there's the site plan. The engineer site plan has a lot more technical information on it, but it shows the house at the front, a front porch, a side porch, a rear porch, and then the building in the middle is the garage, the accessory dwelling unit, pool house, and then the pool is right behind that. And at the back of the property is lawn on top of the septic system.
It's a very deep property, something
It's
like
very deep
200
property.
feet deep or something, so.
Does this require any variances at all?
Does it
No.
require?
Any variances for the,
Warren. Variances. Area
Oh,
variances.
area variances, no, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. It does not require any variances.
No, I was looking for the letter, I don't have what Ken wrote, but it does require variance because he said this 700 something square foot structure really contained 3 different structures and therefore was not a problem. Because they could have been in 3 different places in the backyard, and the fact that they're glued together does not preclude needing a variance, so, you know, I mean, or include needing a variance.
So we're looking at 2 things here. There's a site plan, which will be the site plan for the entire property, which includes a proposed single-family home, and what we call an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU. And the ADU would require a special use permit. And that's something that we will be considering. There's been a lot of talk with both the comprehensive plan and around the village lately about the need for more housing in the village. Even at the state level, there's a lot of work that's encouraging ADUs to provide more housing. And this would be an accessory dwelling unit. This item that Warren pointed out that would have it's a single bedroom unit. Let's go look at it. Here we go.
Well, the middle section would be an accessory dwelling unit.
Right. So this is the garage.
Right.
This is the side entrance with the overhang. There's the storage on the
Oh, the garage.
living area, bedroom, kitchen, bathroom. And there's no passing between the accessory dwelling unit apartment and the pool house and equipment. Right? And I think, Warren, the design was also that there's a bathroom or changing room so people can go to the pool. That's right. But you can only get here from the outside. You can't enter here from the house.
That's correct.
And this would be pool equipment and storage for pool equipment.
Selma, do you have anything additional? Next is Brian Barrett, 39 Mulberry Street.
Bruce.
Oh, Bruce, I'm sorry. My bad, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I have no questions at this time.
That was it on the sign-up sheet, Joe.
Okay, and we also have, as this is a public hearing, you have a letter from
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Ariel Deary, Simkiss. That's 6 South Street. In support of the site plan and accessory dwelling unit. Other questions on the special use permit being requested for an accessory dwelling unit on this property?
All right, so we still have to look at the site plan of the property now to approve the building and the accessory structures, the accessory apartment, the whole wall flat. So any members of the board, we've looked at it's a very elegant house, a 4-level spiral staircase. I like that, it's really nice. And the house looks quite attractive. Again, it's a long but thin lot, so the house goes sort of backwards into the accessory, into the pool, because it goes back. And it's a nice look. We have some pictures of the actual computer rendering of the house, if you can find it. They're after that.
Okay.
Does the board want to discuss this while the public hearing is open, or do we want to close the public hearing?
Well, the public hearing is an accessory apartment. If nobody else has any questions about the accessory apartment, we can let that go and move on to site plan for the whole project.
I'll
Okay,
make a motion to close the public hearing.
do we have a second?
Second, Jeff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, the building, you're onto the accessory, go back a bit. You can see there's a screened-in porch and an open porch, and inside, which again is not a concern of the planning board, the internals of the building, but there's bedrooms and kitchen, pantry, dining room, and so on. And it's a nice internal design, but the external design, it looks like a property in the village, but of course it's new. Anyone have any comments about it?
Is the picture of the front porch, the,
The rendering?
no, the,
This, oh, no, go back.
That's the back.
At one point, Darren had said he thought that underneath the front porch should be a little bit more historically attractive, and then I just saw there that it was stone that was on there, stone facing.
Right, the owner requested we put stone under the front porch.
So is it gray stone or is it multicolored, which is,
No, it's basically blue stone and
Okay.
made up.
That's a good clarification.
The rendering, program is limitations.
Regionally appropriate.
What are you going to do about the sidewalk?
So bluestone is planned to be from the driveway to the door, but the sidewalk in front of the house would certainly be replaced with the same material. That's what you're talking about along the street.
Right, that
Yeah.
would be nice. Because we don't, many people just come paved from the street to the garage and, we
Well,
want.
we know the sidewalk has to go
Linear
across the driveway.
sidewalk,
Yeah.
and it'd be great if it was bluestone.
Yeah, that would certainly cross the
get some more
driveway.
store.
Yeah.
And then, of course, plantings. Do we have a landscape?
So on the first sheet with the site plan, there was a sort of concept for the front of planting along the walk. It was the same set of
Oh,
drawings
same
that Jeff
set.
was in,
Okay.
but it was just the first sheet there.
You could choose zoomed in maybe.
It's on, yeah, I'm sorry, maybe it's the second sheet, I'm sorry. So that has an image of a bluestone walk from a gravel driveway, a willow stone driveway, to the door with boxwoods. That's not the house we're proposing, but it's very similar in its character, and that's the planting that the owners would like to have in front of the house. So there's a small grass area between the public sidewalk and the front walk, and then there's an area of gravel with boxwoods. Those other images are of the pool enclosure, the fence around the property behind the accessory dwelling unit, and then the actual pool fence facing the house would be a mesh with the stone tiers at the entrance. So it's providing visibility through from the rear yard.
Warren, could you confirm what the material of the privacy fence is?
That's wood.
6 foot?
Yes. It's far enough back in the property that we're.
And the garage doors disappeared. The garage doors are wood, or what are the garage doors made out of?
They're certainly available in wood. They have to be insulated, so, they're usually a composition material, but I'm sure wood facing is the preference of the owners, and that would be mine too.
Does it look nice?
And that fencing runs where?
Basically from the gate, there's a gate that leads to the garage. If you look at the front of the garage, there's a gate there with
Okay.
and it runs back along the side, of course, the rear of the property. And the entrance to the pool area is the line that comes right from the edge of the pool house.
Okay. And we talked about, I think there's a swale here for
There is.
water.
Right. We've called for grasses to be planted in there. I think it's reed grass, there should be a note on the plan
It
there.
says switchgrass or reed.
Switchgrass, well, yes, switchgrass will work, there's another one, reed grass in.
Okay, and we have this compressor or heat pump, or what is this over here?
Yeah, there's several of them in a row there.
And
But is that the setback line, Warren, that those compressors cross into?
They're against the house, yeah, in the setback.
right here.
Yeah, we just had Isabel's variance because the
They're in 10 feet.
HVAC heat pumps were in the side yard in the setback. What are the,
10, right?
is it in 10 feet or is it 5
It's
feet?
10 feet.
It's the 10 feet. On a garage can be 5 feet, but
You think you can get them onto the back porch or remote them into the backyard? You have enough line set to get out, Could they somehow be clustered somewhere near the driveway and screened so you can pull them out of the setback?
Yeah, it would be a challenge. I mean, there's obviously the house steps in at the back, whether they would fit in that space kind of depends on the
In here?
units themselves. A lot of them are very sort of rectangular. That's a very generic shape for them that I've shown.
Yeah.
But they could probably fit there. I don't know that they'd want to be right off the screen porch.
Yeah, that's,
Under a porch.
I was
I
looking
know
at
we have a
that.
very propane tank beyond that.
I mean, you have more room on the other side of the house, but I'm sure you don't want them right next to the driveway.
The front and the back larger boxes are more units or
No, those are window wells for basement windows.
windows for the
Yeah.
basement? Well, they're in the setback.
Well,
That's a
we
Are they? We don't have a measurement.
can move them, well, the setback is 10 feet all the way around.
The dotted line is,
That's
yeah,
dotted line.
10 feet, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the house is right up against the setback, there's no
Yeah,
way not to.
we're fighting for inches, but we can move them to the back part of the house where there's no, within that couple feet, I suspect.
I mean, is it worth it, or is it worth trying to get a variance for it because it's a screen porch?
Right, the further back we go, the closer they get to the screen porch, so.
I mean, I suppose the pool, the garage is too far away to put them alongside the garage,
I would say it's a little.
because you're, what, 50 feet or something there?
And yet, I don't know what the rules are about them being too close to a propane tank. You know, if the buried propane tank.
No, you have to be
Eliminate
anything electrical.
When a spark comes out of an electrical appliance and there's a leak
Right.
in the tank, there's an explosion.
Right, they could not be adjacent to the propane tank.
It has to be-
Well, the propane's a little easier to move if that ends up being the ideal. I mean, I suppose that might be an option if the propane tank were to move a little further back. You could use that propane tank location and maybe just develop some way to conceal them there.
Mhm.
Yeah, looks like this condenser's in the setback as well.
Right.
Any option for the opposite side of the ADU or the garage? Your entrance is right about here. Yeah.
And the pool's there.
That's the side of the garage, that would be easiest, to the side. It's just it's dirt right now, I mean, you could do that. But the house presents a problem.
So would the board feel comfortable having them come back on July 16th after they've had an opportunity to consult with an HVAC professional and see if it can be moved, or Warren, if you just
Well, I
want
can
to...
certainly discuss with my clients if they'd like to, pursue a variance, and then we would come to you for recommendation.
So just so you know, you're looking at a further delay.
I understand.
But
I'm
Does
not aiming to
your-
break
does your
ground
client-
on any particular day here.
But I wonder, we could probably continue to advance the application, maybe even vote on it if they were removed the night before and were to agree to remove them and come back strictly for the HVAC conversation.
I don't think Ken would be
I don't think that.
super on board with that, Darren.
Yeah, and I really should have a conversation with my clients about it, so I don't want to make a representation of which way they'd want to go at the moment.
There's one, if we are talking about a variance, there's one other issue that I had a question about, which is the building height shown on the house is 36.
Yeah, and I updated the drawing after I submitted them, but we're well within that. The maximum height is below the limit, but it's the average between the eave and the roof, the ridge, and we're well within it.
Okay, that was good.
And the revised drawings will show that.
See if we had a roof shaver.
Yep.
So, good.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna have to hold this
Sure,
over.
that's fine.
All right, any comments on the lighting plan while we're here?
Or like shown at the front door and at the back door, basically, back porch.
I think I just had it. Let's see. Okay. So these are for where?
There are lights basically at the doors. There's the front door, back door, the door to the accessory dwelling unit.
Like that one, the black one there.
This sconce?
I guess there's 4 different wall sconces shown there.
Well, one has an elevation of the front and side. One, I think, has a cut sheet drawing, and then there's the one off on the left. I think it's in
Which one goes where?
Okay, sure. The barn fixture there on the right is at the main entrance, flanking the doors.
Main entrance to the main house.
To the main house, correct.
This one here.
Yes, that one there.
So this is by the front door,
Correct.
one on both sides, what's the,
Yes, correct.
okay. And what is this?
Those are sconces that go over the garage doors, one over each garage door.
Okay.
What about the one in the middle of the 2?
One in the middle go on the balcony on the second floor off the primary bedroom. There's one on either side of the door there. And one next to the rear entrance on the deck, which we covered. It's a covered deck in one house.
And then the one on the farther left?
That's for the entry into the garage, the side entry.
Okay. The person.
the actually ADU
The
entrance.
ADU entry, yes, sorry, correct.
So do you have a comment on the HVAC system?
So, yeah, you missed the interest
I was here, I was.
Oh, you're right, right. So the HVAC condensers were located on the plan, which was a request at the last meeting, very reasonable. But it's pointed out that we're showing them within the setbacks because it's a narrow lot, and so the question is, are you comfortable moving them somewhere else? Because the further away they are, the farther the refrigerant and everything else to travel. But it's just something we can discuss. We don't need to make a commitment now, but if we want to keep them in the setbacks, we would have to go for a variance before the zoning board. So this board would make a recommendation at a future meeting, and then the zoning board would consider it, and if they approved it, they could stay in the setbacks, and if they didn't, we'd have to find somewhere else to put them.
And the garage, it's just a wall of the either side of the garage. It doesn't seem like it'd be a problem to put it on the inside of the garage versus the outside, so you would see it,
Right.
which would be different. And
Yeah.
you'd be a variance to all the units in the setback.
Clark there.
Yeah.
And we have made positive recommendations for those variances, largely based on how much screening was involved. So, if you're thoughtful about
So
concealing.
these
Yeah.
especially,
Laura-
I mean,
Laura-
the ADU is meant to be
I can figure it
inhabited
from the
by
prior
my
meeting.
father, so I don't want him to have, I mean, aesthetically, it's not
Well, there's also a
lovely to walk
fence.
by
There's
there.
also a fence in the
On
front
the,
of
no,
it,
I
so
mean,
that
on the,
wouldn't
on
be
the,
visible.
on the
Oh, yeah,
yard
you wouldn't want it-
side.
you wouldn't
I
want
don't
it
want them on the
outside.
yard
Right.
side, yeah, no.
and these three, we would have to be blocked from the street.
Mhm.
We don't want to see them. And the line sets, well, you're building a building, which is the advantage. All the line sets can be internal to the building.
Yeah.
So that's something that you don't have to go off the side of the building, which happens a lot in the
Right.
village. For old buildings, but this gives you a chance to put it inside the building, as well as the garage and the condensers back there.
So we discussed the possibility of moving it back to where the building steps in a little bit, right under the sort of family room windows. But
Yeah.
of course, they're much closer to the screen porch, so when you're out there, you'll hear the
Right,
whirring and signal of the
Right.
fan units.
and that, and the family room is also like the TV and, I don't know, if we want
Yeah.
to hear them kicking on and off.
They're very good these days, but you will still hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 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 that's
Quiet night when
fine,
nothing's happening.
but directly
they turn
underneath
on.
windows as opposed to further up where it's a less occupied part of the house.
Well, I just said that maybe.
Sounds like you want to think about it a
I
little
like
bit.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
recommend
Yeah.
that.
Variance.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys can think about, what you want to do.
So as you're thinking, and looking ahead at the meeting schedule, more than likely you wouldn't be seen by the zoning board until August. And then, back here for final site plan approval until September.
Right after Labor Day, if that's acceptable.
And all things considered.
But you have to be prepared for the ZBA if they ask questions and they want alternatives and other ways of doing it to answer those questions about what to do. So,
Just speaking of being prepared, just a couple other clarifications, especially because you're coming back. So Warren, last time we had a bit of a discussion, we were trying to take the square footage of the pool house down And you threw out the number of 144, and I wasn't quite following why you were looking for 144 square feet on the pool house. But the only thing that the 144 square feet does for you, because you're at 152 today, is reduces the side yard setback requirement, but you already conform to that. So I think you can keep the pool house square footage at 152 as you originally designed it. The 144 would allow you to move the pool house section of the building 5 feet closer to the side property line.
I thought though, when you go through the regulations for accessory structures, it lists you can have a garage, you can have another accessory structure, which in this case is the ADU. And the third one, it says like a garden shed or a green shed. They don't specifically have a
Oh, okay,
pool house.
all right, so there,
And
so, okay.
that's
I thought I figured out why you were going there, so it's because you.
So I said, okay, that's what we gotta go through, so.
That makes sense then. So
And
you
we
get-
have, even though the drawings, these drawings say 152, we've got it down below.
Okay, so now you are compliant with
Yes.
that, but it was not for the reason I thought. It's
It wasn't because of, side yard, it had to do with the three
Three accessory structures
Exactly.
too. Okay, so that's great. And thank you for putting all the other notes on the plan. That's very helpful. Sorry that condensers didn't
No, it's
follow
good.
that
That's-
direction.
That's a good reason to have them labeled.
Exactly. I didn't see the height of the pool house. I'm not concerned about it, but it'd be worth riding it.
We
Because
can
it's
do
a
that, too.
26, that one has a 26 foot limitation on it. So just to confirm that's below and have that on the plan.
Sure.
Um,
Really, it's probably the garage and ADU that's taller than the pool house itself.
The
accessory structure.
The accessory
Yeah,
structure
right,
grouping
yeah.
there. So that would be helpful.
Sure.
You clarified the fence materials. Just to confirm, all the pool equipment then is in that corner of the pool house, so it's all,
It's undercover, but in a screened enclosure, so you can't see it.
Okay.
Let's air move through it.
so nothing remote out in the property, everything is
That's
consolidated
correct.
into that corner.
Right.
Okay, which does meet the setback requirement. And then I do see you have the pool barrier on there. In the past, we've just asked that that's a pool barrier compliant with New York State code requirements or something
I can
like
do
that.
that. That's
Just
not a
a simple
problem.
note. So, but we checked the box. We didn't have to like check your gates and heights and fence spacing or anything like that, but you agreed to put it.
So that fence across the lower opening there is the fence which would block the entire backyard and thus negate a need for a fence around the pool.
Correct.
That's, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I thought you mentioned before that was a 6-foot fence, but it shows 4 feet on this plan?
Oh, does it? Oh, no, that's only the one
This is
facing the
6.
house. That, the 6 foot is around the 3 sides.
Okay.
That's the wood barrier fence. The pool fence facing the house is the one that actually has a mesh, you can see through it, or the gate.
Yeah, and, 4 there down the bottom, and then heading back, 4.
If you drag the drawing to the left a little bit, there's a note about the other fence. Other way. There's a note there, a couple of
And 2
places.
corners,
about
6
the-
foot high privacy.
That's it.
Uh-huh, I see.
That lot that closes in the entire yard and makes it a giant fence rather than a pool fence.
Right.
And then, and the only other thing that, if you just added to the plan would be helpful, and I might have just missed it, is the square footages for everything. Maybe even in your compliance table, just so we can check that 75% limitation
Yep.
for accessory structures and some of the other things. And I'm sure you're compliant, but it'd be nice, because we don't use an engineer to do this.
Sure.
That we could just say that
Absolutely.
table shows compliant.
Yep, thank you.
And those are everything I have. I still think it looks great.
Yeah. Just one wrinkle.
We can do it.
Please.
All right, so we'll hold this over for next time.
Right, thanks for your time and your eagle eyes. And time.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is 6 Mulberry Street.
Mulberry Street is getting one.
So first, I want to thank David for his tour. I know Michael's been there a lot, but the 3 of us haven't seen it, and it really opened our eyes to really understand the property, what it looks like, and the incredible difficulty of having a building with no first floor. Like I said, we seem to have dreamed. And we've seen the Verrilli Building, and I don't know what style that was, that people wanted to build buildings with no first floor, sort of the anti-handicapped accessible philosophy. But it's going to be a lot of work, but it is interesting, and we got a good view of all of that. So the first thing that we asked everybody to do is to take a look to make sure that the application, the demolition permit that David submitted was complete. And I think he did a very good job. I have to ask everybody else if they have comments, Aaron, Michael, and Jeff, that anything was missed in the application.
For demolition, I think it's thorough. I think everything required as part of Chapter 64 is in there. I appreciate that. And with a good amount of detail. I mean, I think you went into a lot of detail, provided a lot of supporting documentation, and sort of led us to some of the conclusions about what that information meant to the consideration of demolition. So I thought you did a nice job, a thorough job.
Yeah. And seeing in person what has to be done, the demolition, makes a lot of sense. Of course, we have to have the public's input from that and see where we go from there, but I don't think that's as confusing as the subdivision. So could you bring up that one page, Jeff, with the picture of the whole property?
Yeah, just to finish on the application, I think that the application for removal and partial demolition of historic structure, I agree, is complete. Our village planning attorney, David Gordon, shared with us the criteria that would need to happen, to be looking for the criteria that we would review, and any criteria that would have to be satisfied if it happened that you had to go to the ZBA and were denied, and what you would have to do. But I think that's all complete. And I think when we get to the public hearing, I'm confident that if there's any other questions the public will have on the demolition, you'll be prepared to answer.
Now, David had to be out of the country this week. He wrote a letter with his comments and his feelings about things. He asked my permission to share it with Victoria, and I said, sure, we're not hiding anything. You can, he said he had several discussions with you as well. And we had, David's concerns. But the concerns were, this is the client memorandum, demolition permit, and the confusion we have is that we want to segregate it into three pieces: demolition, the subdivision, and the site plan. But they're interrelated because the demolition is of the 6 Mulberry Street, Lot 3. The subdivision has to deal with the entire property. And then the site plan is only going to talk about 6 Mulberry Street, not the rest of the properties. So we have to make sure that we don't have a problem with the subdivision. Now, it was put into the law that you could have as small as 7,000 square feet, and depending on the planning board's feeling, you could have shared driveways. So I guess if changing the subdivision map could have a drastic effect on a lot of things. I mean, I'm not a party to the whole calculation for the 31 bedrooms and the septic system allocation, but if you knock the house down from 8,500 square feet to 7,000 square feet, you could lose a bedroom. I'm not sure about all the details of how the septic system would have to be reworked.
We're actually happy to talk about that a little bit tonight. We have some pictures, because we do think the board should address this earlier rather than later.
Absolutely, I agree too. And my feeling is that, it's just my opinion, you have to ask the other 4 members of the board for their opinion, is that when an applicant submits an application, our job is to look at the application and see if it meets the code. I don't think it's up to the planning board to start redesigning a project for someone. My feeling about shared driveways, we had an instance about 10 years ago. Applicant had owned 2 houses on East Market Street and said, I owned them both, I could share the driveway. And one of them, Tim Decker, said, wait a minute, what's going to happen 10 years from now when you don't? And they're gonna say, who's gonna pay for the plowing? There's a big hole in it, who's gonna pay for re-asphalting the driveway? There could be problems we really would prefer to have, and I have always felt that way, you know, separate driveways. But that's just my opinion personally, you know, to be out in the open here. So, that's a sticking point. We need to be clear, and did you have, right, so this is what we're talking about. And if you were to go down from 8,500, 8,000 to 7,500, what would happen here? I was looking at this, I thought about this on our walk with David, said, well, 1 and 2 are locked in. You can't do much with 1 and 2, because there's a house, you know, property back there. There's not a property back there. I mean, there was talk of like sliding these up a bit and extending the playground area all the way to South Street. On this side, you could have some more green space, but I'm not sure of what making it smaller would accomplish. And again, I'm just stating my opinion, I'm not speaking for the rest of the guys, so.
So, I mean, we agree with you, shared driveways, as an attorney, I mean, I can't tell you how many phone calls I get from neighbors who are fighting over shared driveways. They tend to be problematic, and they're more appropriate in rural areas, you know, where you have long driveways, where the cost of 2 driveways is very significant. But we have something, we'd like to talk you through this tonight, the 7,000, 8,000 square foot issue.
We did some analysis, if I could hand it out. Brian, you want a copy for record? Yeah.
David, could you just give one to the public so they
I
can follow
will,
along?
I have actually more than one.
As well.
so-
We got McDonald's again, Jeff.
Yeah. No, I have plenty for everyone to.
Well,
Yeah, the biggest one.
this is showing
Yeah, thank you, David.
the lot
Well, David, we need one.
Right.
areas.
Yeah, I got two.
That's the only thing that's correct there, because that's not against the
Against
BSO
Michigan.
zoning. So we can look at that for the lot area, but the compliance is
Thank you.
caution.
Yeah.
Okay.
And before I forget, on the big plans you sent out, I'm not sure whether north, south, and east and west are correct.
Really?
On these?
Are they?
I would hope so.
Yeah, wait a minute, I think he's
That's
referring
the
to.
one
On the bigger ones.
On the big
Oh.
plans, yeah.
I will, I'll have another look. I would be, if I made a mistake, I'll have it corrected, but.
I think north, south,
I think north and south needed to be
Did I
Right.
reverse?
On the elevations.
Oh,
right.
so what I did here, if we can hold the first 2 sheets, A and B, side by side. In some ways, I feel like as applicants, we were sort of a bit preempted by the issuance of the draft 2024 comp plan, which on page, I think it's 45 of the housing section, sort of proposes or looks at the Bulkley Schoolhouse or 6 Mulberry as a test case and proposes some options of what that could mean and look like. And so it qualified it as schematic, so I'm not necessarily critical of it, but what I did was I took that idea and really looked at in implementing it actually in dimensions on the site, what does that mean? So A is the applicant's, our proposal. B is looking at lots 4 and 5 as 7,000 square foot lots with a shared driveway, which then affords a roughly 3,000 square foot open corner space on the corner of Mulberry and South. If you go to, in addition, if we go to page C now, the other part of the proposed 2024 schematic was that in addition to that 7,000 square foot allocation, the building itself was, the demolition was decreased. So only about 30% of the building or the gymnasium, which is the lower portion of the drawing on lot C, on page C, that you can see that there versus the top, which is our proposal. The net effect on that is because of the BSO's governing law of 1.25 parking per unit, we can we can max out at 12 units in the building. We are limited by the code to 31 bedrooms across the entire development. And so planning on 3-bedroom single-family homes, we are still limited to 19 bedrooms in the building. That would reshuffle the unit mix from what is now proposed as 9 2-bedrooms and 1 1-bedroom to 8 2-bedrooms and 3 1-bedrooms, which we would argue are less desirable units. 2 bedrooms are a more desirable unit and fit a bigger need within the village than the 1 bedrooms. It also necessitates the shifting of the parking, which is still 16 units, but that parking has to move further north in the lot where it was 50 feet plus from the northern property share boundary line. It would now be 39 feet and 2 inches. Western, sorry. You can see why I got those north-south. The western property line, the shared property line with the Miller property, which I think would be, I would not support. The other thing that this page kind of indicates is the proposed demolition for the applicant, or us, means that the open space is roughly 49.21%. As proposed. Even with decreasing to 7,000 square foot lots, but adhering to what the draft proposal, the draft comp plan suggested, you only gain 1% open space, which is something, but I'm not sure that's a decision-making amount of space to.
This is what I said, at the outset. The only thing I saw, you can't do lot 1 and 2, but you could move lots 4 and 5 up,
Correct.
getting a bigger space. But now you are sacrificing outside space for buildings.
Well,
I
that,
think this corner is not very usable because it's right there on the corner.
No, I don't like page 2
Not
at all. I
private.
don't know.
And to me, when you're in an urban area, you want the buildings on the corners.
Yes, you
You
do.
don't want
I-
urban areas.
I fully agree. I was taking a schematic, I was trying to understand how this would relay out with the 7,000 square foot lot allocation and driven somewhat by the schematic and the comp plan that was studied. When you look, to support, I think what you were saying, but certainly what I'm trying to say is, if you look at page D, this looks at the proposed, on the upper part of the page, the proposed lot versus a 7,000 square foot lot configuration. On the left side of each one, in that sort of, I don't know, what pinkish, reddish something, those are the septic, so that's really open space. But you can see with the shared driveway and the smaller lot, the configuration of the house takes up a lot more of the lot. The lot coverage goes up. It's still compliant, but it goes up. Open space goes down. And I think that there's something also critical, like a shared driveway is no longer open space in the same way, to be enjoyed in the same way as a private driveway, right? A private driveway in a suburban or in the village context, kids leave their bikes in. It's an area to play in. You can leave your car parked there. If it's a shared driveway, that wouldn't be very neighborly, right? And so it's a place that really has to be maintained as open space, foregoing a kind of useful space. So we believe that makes the lots less desirable, and that would be a negative in our eyes.
If you were to do this and push these up and have the backyard go over to South Street, now you're having a backyard facing South Street. The people who live on South Street have to look at, instead of looking at a house, they're looking at, playgrounds and barbecues and whatever, picnic tables. I think that invades the privacy of the people on South Street. And like I said, even with this change, you can't change anything about lot 1 and 2, except now you have the driveways right next to each other, and they look squished, and this takes away green space from the owners of these 4 buildings. Now, I've been doing all the talking, like some input from the rest of you guys.
In terms of shared driveways, I live on Oak Street, which was the bottom was laid out in probably the 1830s before cars. And I got a ton of horseshoes in my yard I dug up. Right across the street from me, it's been a shared driveway for the 41 years that I've lived there, and multiple people living there. It has been one argument with another of these people. And then I went to a family thing, and my brother has a shared driveway out in Clinton Corners, and he's in conflict with his neighbor who has backed into his fence a dozen times, and he's getting boulders and putting down, and now they're arguing, and it's like, you know, I got conflicting surveys, so it's like, you know, and in terms of 7,000 and 8,000 square foot lots, my lot is a double lot, and I think it's a perfect size, because I had room in the back for my kids to grow up and then my grandkids to grow up, and I look at these other ones, and it's like, I look at my house and my yard, and I'm like, I can't imagine a whole nother house right up against, like from here to these chairs, you know, and so,
How big is your lot?
14,000 square feet. And across the street, where did I put it? Hollenbeck, 0.13 of an acre, which on an acre, that means it's 5662 square feet. The next one is Eric and Pina. It's a nice design. They have literally no yard at all. There's 0.14, there's 6,000. And then the next one is 65. So those three don't even hit the 7,000, but they've been there for 200 years. But they were laid out in a different time frame when people didn't have cars and RVs and, you know, kids and, you know, gardens and stuff. So I'm not even in favor of 8,000. I think that's too small, but that's my own personal prejudice. And I didn't write the law, so you have to go by what the law is. But shared driveways, I mean, what are you talking? A parking spot is 9 by 18 or 10 by 20. Is it a 10-foot lane? Is it a 20-foot lane? But it's like, that's his half, that's her half. And I'm not in favor of shared driveways. That's
Aaron, Jeff?
I'm not in favor of shared driveways either. I think they just create problems for the future homeowners. And I honestly don't see a need for them, right? In terms of what can be done and what can't be done, so what you've got here, just by the way, the C on the top, you have the 10-unit, 19 bedrooms, 9, 2, and 1, 1. That's the current proposal, right?
Correct.
This one on the bottom of C that has 12 units in it,
Yep.
what's the purpose of that? You're limited to 10.
No, I don't.
No, it's bedrooms.
I think we're limited to a bedroom count across the development.
Yeah.
We're not limited to a unit count in the building for the BSO. So we're limited, I mean, we are limited by a bedroom count in the building per the septic capacity,
Uh-huh.
right? So obviously, if we added a lot more land to the building, right, that would increase open space for septic, and that could increase bedroom count within the building. It would have to then be taken away from the other 4 lots because we're capped at 31 across the entire 1.43 acres. There is nothing in the BSO that says you're capped at 10 units.
Can you explain though why we're showing a different configuration? It's because the building.
There's 2 reasons. One, because, again, I was somewhat preempted by the draft comprehensive plan. And so I took that proposal to kind of use it as a way to test the 7,000 square feet and the consequences. In that draft proposal, the demolition of the building that was proposed is less than what we are proposing. So I took that and said, okay, now I have, instead of a 15,000 square foot building, I have something like a 19,000 square foot gross, a little less, 18,000 square foot gross. I can't effectively spread that out over 10 units because it makes my units way too large for the bedroom count, and it isn't a very desirable product. So I'd be better off increasing unit count, which will change my unit mix. It also, the more units is gonna have an impact on cost, but that's not really the tenor of this conversation. It's more about feasibility.
Well,
So-
my feeling is that
And it pushes parking back.
BSO has been passed, it is law. We're going by the BSO. The comp plan has not been passed yet, it is not law yet, so I am not concerned about what's going to happen down the line. What's happening today is what we're dealing with, and we dealt with this law. And David Gordon specifically said to me, I said, well, we have laws about the residential district, about the historic district. He said, this is not in the residential district. I mean, it's in the residential, but it's not subject to the laws of the residential. It's the BSO laws. Go by what's in that when you're making decisions about this, not about the way things are done in the rest of the village. This is done on this property with this law, which is now in effect. So that's what I would like us to look at now.
So I'm looking at A and B again. So the proposal is for the 10 units as described, right? And on the topic of subdivisions, right? So we're talking about 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3 and 5, right?
1, 2,
Because
4, and 5.
Yeah, 4 and 5, because there's no, all of the statistics and details you've given us for the apartment building assume this lot designation outline, okay? So then I can see a couple of things. I don't think 1 and 2 are baked in stone, right? I do see that this is pretty darn close to this driveway. Now, let's be clear, the standard for the village had been 8,000 square feet minimum, but the law would allow up to a minimum or down to a minimum of 7,000 square feet. It doesn't mean it's either 8,000 or 7,000. Could be 7,800, could be 7,200, could be 8,100, because you've got the numbers in there. Something I'd like you to think about is, because I see this so narrow here, right, is there a way you could shave 4 or 5 feet off of each of these and give it another buffer here of green where this entrance is? That's one suggestion I would like you to think about. And I'm not suggesting bring either of these down to 7,000 square feet, right? But it could be between the two, it could be a couple of 100 square foot difference, and it would allow visually a larger entrance here, and there might even be some green space here, right? The other thing is on your sheet B, what you're showing is, again, 1 and 2, 3, well, although it's a 12-unit thing. And 4 and 5 then become, is there anything that could be done or should be done with 4 and 5? And what you're showing on B here is a smaller 4 and 5, bringing this line back here. Now, what would that mean? Would that mean that there would be a lot line instead of here, that would be up to here with the front of the building, and that would be green space and still allow for, albeit maybe not 8,000, but maybe 77, 7,800 for these two, and still have some green space on the corner, excuse me.
That's what that would do, it would create a green
Yes.
patch.
Yes, yeah. But my question though is that, and you're showing, so you're showing that green patch being basically
On the corner.
up here. I just, yeah. So in your option B here, you're showing this green patch occurring because you basically just moved this back to about here.
Yes,
Right, which means that the apartment building lot would then kind of come down and just have a little corner L here for green space?
correct.
Right. which personally I think would be more desirable. The question to you will be, and we have to wait for John to chime in at the next meeting. John Clark will be here next. Are you satisfied you could still get houses in there with septic fields under those two suggestions?
I mean, it's the applicant's preference to proceed with the project that they proposed, which is the larger lots, and not having that weird corner patch, because the corner patch, A, means that the corner is empty, there's no building on it. And B, it doesn't seem like space that's gonna be used by the tenants necessarily, it would just go unused. Whereas if it were part of a residential lot, it would be incorporated into a backyard. Which we feel there's more value to it being part of a residential home lot than, you know, that corner piece.
Well, not only do I think there's more value to the lot and it makes the lot more desirable, I would also argue that it is a continuity of the context of the village, right? That corner pocket parks are not really the norm, right? We infill with a kind of meaningful, I mean, I assume that 8,000 square foot came from a study of lot sizes that predates my involvement with the village, and the 7,000 I think was really a response to the need for more housing. But I do think contextually and from a street facade point of view, it's important to continue that rhythm of neo-Victorian homes as infill along the pedestrian walk, not interrupted by a kind of really diminutive corner pocket park.
Well, I don't even want
Not
to
even
call
a
it.
pocket park because it's not
It
public,
would
right?
be open to the public.
Yeah, it's private, right? So it's not.
And you are allowed, because it's corner property, to have a 6-foot fence there, which would,
Correct.
you would
Well,
not.
Not in the front, but on the side.
Not in front of the front facade.
No, not in the front, but on the side, on Mopers, you have a 6-foot fence. And that would, instead of seeing houses, you would see a 6-foot fence, a backyard on the corner, which well, let's come, let Darren talk. But, you know, again, I mean, I'd like to see houses on the corners, houses up front, and I don't think it's right to take away green space for other properties to give it to the Brogan Center. These are homes, that's an apartment building. Apartment buildings usually have less green space than do private homes. And I also don't like the concept of taking away that, again, from the 4 houses, to give a park that would go out, I mean, an open green space at the back to be exposed to Mulberry Street, I mean, South Street as well. And we like in the village to have house, driveway, house, driveway, house, driveway. That's the way the village looks. It's not that this combo of 1 and 2's driveways and garages squeezed together you know.
Yeah, you would still have house driveway under pretty much any plan.
Yeah,
Right.
but these have the 2 driveways next to each other. It's driveway.
Right, you
Or a
have to
sheet.
have a shared driveway.
Yeah, okay, it doesn't have, yeah, that doesn't have to.
Or a shared driveway, which everyone,
Yeah,
but
I don't
Darren
think-
hasn't
I don't
shut
think-
in
I
yet.
think we're
I'm gonna
okay
shut
with
up
shared
and let Darren make his comments. I'm talking too much, sorry.
Wow, all right. I guess I don't have many opinions to share, which is probably surprising, but certainly shared driveways, I agree with the board. I think we've vetted that out pretty well, and I think from a practicality standpoint, that doesn't sound like a practical alternative. You know, the VSO code says as little as 7,000 square feet for these lots, right? Nothing says they can't be a mixed bag, some larger, some smaller. It's kind of what you have already. I think Jeff brings up some interesting points about a little extra buffer on the side of the driveway, and I think the board members all bring up interesting points about the corner. For me, I think what I'm most after is you committing to what you want to do and telling us this is the thing we believe in for site plan approval, factoring all of these inputs in. From what I can tell, looking at the information you submitted, based on our preliminary plat requirements for a subdivision, it looks to me like you're almost all the way complete. There's probably a few things that we can agree to waive, like topo. I'm not sure we need much in the way of topography here in the village where you are.
I think there's one topo line.
Yeah, so I think we could either argue that we have it or we don't, and then maybe some site features in terms of trees and things like that could be added in. But what I think would be most helpful to this conversation is you certainly check the box for labeling the names of the adjacent property owners, but I think, and this was a point that John Clark also mentioned in the letter, I think zooming out and showing us where those structures are in relation to the structures you're proposing. And I think that is where the answer for the rhythm of the street comes from, right? Would a pocket that has more or less structure on it, on the corner, feel better or worse? And I think for me, that answer is on the pattern of the street, right? This is an infill development. We're not trying to go back in time and recreate history. We're trying to put something in that feels like it belongs in the village on all three of these roadways. And we talked about this a little bit on the site tour. On Mulberry Street, you know, lots 1, 2, and the existing building share a similar setback to the road. We looked at a couple of adjacent properties and we sort of agreed, we saw a rhythm there. We didn't extend that conversation out to South Street, where I think this is most relevant in looking at what the use of that corner should be. And we do know the adjacent corner is more vacant than not. So there's certainly that to start with. So I think it's up to you as applicants to show us something of precedent on South Street within a reasonable distance that establishes what this rhythm should be. And I think that's where the answer for me would come in terms of what's appropriate for a subdivision approval. And then I did just look it up, but our code does have a favorite, or favors subdivided lots that are very geometric and clean, right? So lot lines that run perpendicular to roadways, lot lines that have a minimum of jogs and bumps to them. So maybe that's something that goes to Jeff's earlier point on lot 2, although it is a fairly clean lot to begin with. So I think my point is, you know, you can go as small as 7,000, you can go as big as you want, but it's, you know, on you to convince us that the rhythm of it's right, and then you to convince the county and everyone else involved that you can make a septic work there. But with that commitment to a particular plan, I feel fairly comfortable saying we've got a complete subdivision application once you confirm that the April 10th plan you submitted and all the sheets that go with it reflects, or some newer version reflects exactly what you want to do. But it does sound like we might be breaking this apart from the demolition in a way, or are we talking about demolition being complete 100% today and subdivision maybe needing some more conversation? So we could proceed potentially to a public hearing on demolition?
Well, the question would be, would the public hearing be only on demo, or would we bundle, as David Gordon has suggested, demo and subdivision? In David, the village planning attorney, David Gordon's, met with Victoria. They talked about things. And David told us in his letter, his opinion was that the applicants would like to consider demolition permit and subdivision first and subordinate the site plan review until later, which actually makes sense to me. I agree. Further, David Gordon suggested the applicant's request has the practical benefit of subordinating the issues that are likely to undergo the most detailed review until after the overall framework is resolved through subdivision and demolition approval. And further, that the board may condition the demolition permit and subdivision approval on the applicant's attainment of an approved site plan. So, you know,
The thought process was that we weren't going to get into site plan details until we knew what part of the building was coming down and where the lines are going, because everything moves.
Right.
So, I mean, I think we can, David and I can continue talking about that last recommendation he made, but we would like to see the demolition permit and the subdivision plat both move forward. If you don't think the subdivision plat is ready for a public hearing, you know, we do ask that you set it on the demolition permit, just so we start getting that public comment.
Yes, I want to get the public comment, and that speaks to my concerns. I have always hated to have major projects or public hearings in the middle of the summer when the public is not around and we're not around. And our schedules, already, David Gordon couldn't be here tonight. He's not going to be here on the 16th of July. We're going to figure out a way to bring him in on Zoom at a big TV here so we can participate in the meeting. But we're 4 now. Darren's going to be gone and John will be back. In August, Darren and John will be back, but Michael will be away. With the 5 of us will be back the day after Labor Day. So I don't want to have a vote on something. It could be a 2-2 tie, and then we have to wait, because we have some diverse opinions. I don't think about the demolition, but I think about some of this, and eventually, of course, the site plan, we could have, it might not be a clean 4-0 vote. Plus, I'd want to hold it, at least have 2 nights, so if someone's gone in August and back in September or whatever, the public would have a chance, rather than write us a letter, to be here and speak out in person to the board.
I understand that concern. I think we'd like you to at least open the hearing in July so we can start getting that input, because this way you can continue it to August. Maybe we'll also have, be ready for a public hearing on the plat at that time, so those 2 can move in process.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have to hold each public hearing and vote on the 2 things. I don't think we can do them, talk about them to combine, we're gonna have to vote on each one separately. I don't think we
Right,
can
they're
approve them.
separate, they're separate
issues.
approvals.
And just procedurally, we have to, if we said this is complete on the demo front, we have 62 days to hold a public hearing on that.
Yeah.
So I think if we are in agreement, demo at least has to be set for July or August. Just to throw that into
What's
the-
our feeling about, are we complete on demo? I don't think we had any problems at all with the demo. I'm not sure. There's been a lot of public hearings in front of the village board about this project, so the public is well aware about a lot of things. I don't think we'll be surprised by anything that probably would have come up on the other thing, but there will be people that have things to say we have to take into consideration during site plan, less so than,
I'm satisfied that the application submitted by the applicant for the removal and partial demolition of the things is sufficient that we could open a public hearing on demolition. It's just a matter of, do we want to do that? And then possibly, after we get through the next meeting or 2, then open additionally a public hearing on the plat, the subdivision, which we can do. But I don't guess there's any reason to hold that up.
Well, we could hold the demo open.
Yes,
Victoria,
exactly.
right, yeah.
It could be open until we're satisfied it's closed.
I'd like to have all 5 of us here for all of the votes.
So, I think we
Make sure
should
that,
open the
I mean, we
public
can
hearing
see
on
what
demo.
happens, but I don't know if it's fair if one of the demo permit is complete, to have to wait another month just for a 5th member. I mean, I think some of these, especially if it's not gonna be controversial, can move forward with 4. But, we can talk about it when the time comes. Are there 2 meetings in August?
No.
Just one in July, one in August.
August 6th, and then the day after Labor Day. Yeah, I gotta say, demo's clear. This is subject to, you guys have suggested some possibilities. I, as one
we weren't
person, would
actually.
No,
like this.
just to be clear, the study was to support our Plan A,
Right.
and was to
Yeah.
show that the Plan B was not practicable,
That's-
particularly aesthetic, didn't really create desirable lots, nor did it do anything to support the historic district particularly, by creating this little corner.
I want to
So
look
that's
at-
why we produced it. It wasn't actually a proposal.
Right, no, I understand that.
But I think
No,
we're saying site plan, we're not quite, our subdivision, we're not quite there yet.
Right.
So that would
But
be.
the subdivision
next
is
conversation.
critical. There are lots of people here who live on South Street. I'm extremely close. That little box in the bottom there, that's my bedroom window. And I would rather look out on houses and trees and stuff than a vacant lot and abandoned building. It would be, a lot more pleasant. But again, the building should be on the front of the whole property line. It should be surrounded by buildings. The 4 buildings will screen some of the Brogan Center. You'll see houses walking up and down the street. Not so much, we did that with the spa, with the Mirabeau Spa. That thing is a giant building, it's huge. And they did views of the spa for us, and you can't see it from anywhere unless you're standing in the driveway looking at it. So some of these houses surrounding the Brogan Center will shield it from the view, which is another reason why I like this design, not a playground on the corner.
So we would ask that you consider setting the hearing for the July meeting. We understand if it has to stay open in the next meeting, that's not the concern, but we do want to start getting at least the comments from the public on that application, because the knocking down the building really drives the whole project.
Right.
I'm going to motion that we set the public hearing for the demolition application for the next meeting, July 18th? 16th.
16th.
I will second that.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. We'll get started then, and,
So I just potentially, so I understand that a sort of tuned up plat, maybe with more meets and bounds definition, and then a sort of zoomed out plat, right, to support the proposed lot division and how that rhythmically is respectful of the neighborhood and the continuity of the context.
Yeah.
With those submitted in relatively 10 days' time or less, would it potentially be possible at the July meeting that we designate a public hearing for the subdivision? Could it be deemed complete at that point, and we could set that for August?
Well, if we were to deem it complete at that meeting,
Correct.
we're required to set a public hearing for that in 62 days as well.
Okay.
So we would have to set it for August or
Okay, I see.
September.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
and just one comment on the in about 10 days. I think on this particular application, and we're trying to do it all across the board, those submission deadlines at the end of the agenda there for having all materials in are very, very important.
Yeah.
For you and for us, because it gives us the time to review them properly.
Have I missed deadlines?
I don't know that you have or haven't.
Okay.
I think it's just, we have a good amount of work to
Yeah,
process through.
fair
so
enough. No,
They come to
I-
us when we get them,
fair
as soon as Ryan gets
I'll
them.
be mindful.
So,
One other thing, when you're showing the surrounding properties, buildings, but also, major landscaping, trees and things.
yeah, when you walk through the place the other day with us, it's a jungle back there, which is not very attractive, but it is a great
Very
screening.
effective.
Very effective screening, with vines growing everywhere.
We've talked about this
And to
outside
try
of the board.
you can't put back, 50-year-old trees if they have to come down. So that definitely should be in, but it doesn't, back here, you don't have to, you're not doing anything back there. You don't really have to knock anything down to get the miller's privacy as well as the people behind 1 and 2, along there. And the houses should be out on the outer perimeter of it, shelter the backyard. We have houses on the front and backyards in the back. And, that's the way the village looks, and that gives the people in the back privacy, and it gives the look of the village.
That has nothing to do with agreeing to the subdivision in the plat, though. That's all site plan for the future owners of the 4 housing lots. We don't know what they'll be proposing.
Right.
We're concerning ourselves with what's an appropriate subdivision, so that we can get through the demolition, subdivision, plat, certification, and then move on to site plan of the central building.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the 3 steps are just lot 3, all of it, and then just lot 3 for site plan. So it's a little, it's strange, but that's why we're gonna have to do this. And then they will come one at a time, as they have on, behind Village Green, come back like 7 blank boxes approved, and they came back one at a time, and we did site plan on each of the buildings as they were constructed, making sure they give privacy to their neighbors, when they put up green. But again, it's hard for new construction to give, old vines and bushes and tall trees when you're starting a new project, so.
yeah, so just for the plat to be deemed complete, it's right there in our
Yeah.
code, right? So A through P are the things we're going to require. We talked about the topography, seems like one we can waive. And then the only other thing I forgot to mention again is on your, on Mr. Hildebrandt's drawing, we want to change that compliance table to now reflect the BSO zone, because it currently shows the prior zoning. So we'd update that to show compliance with the BSO zone, especially for site plan or for
So take a look at the big plans on north, south, whatever, then there's
That table.
one bathroom on the first floor is labeled as hall or something. When I was looking, it's not labeled as a bathroom, so if you wanna- that's not really,
I mean, that'll be a site plan.
that's for
issue.
somebody, that's site plan,
Yeah,
and
so,
for
but I'll fix
for
it.
zoning enforcement to look at, the building inspector, not us, but, you know.
You mean, I'm sorry. Darren, you mean this compliance table?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think now it's appropriate to have the VSO zone since that's been adopted.
Yeah.
This was, I think, produced prior to that,
Mhm.
or a holdover from the old.
I mean, it's just changing the required column, which is really, in fact, only changing that top box.
I think
No,
so.
the space has changed too. We'll
Yeah,
update
the space
it.
I'll
There it
update it,
is,
yep,
yeah.
uh-huh, yep.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends. If you want to come back and say we're shaving a few feet off of 1 and 2 there to give a little more than the,
Yeah.
then the lot, the total lot size won't be such a round number, 8,533. It'll be, or 8,115. It'll be something else, probably close to that. Okay? Anything
And
else?
yeah, no, that's it, and it's just unfortunate, this building doesn't have a first floor. It would be a lot nicer to have green space there instead of two gigantic handicap ramps, and perhaps an elevator to get people up and down the building. Probably be less money to do that than build these gigantic handicap ramps, but there's no first floor, and it's really awkward.
Well, that's something to think about.
That should
To give some thought to, if you could find a solution to include an elevator and eliminate the giant ramp,
You
the
can't get
scissor ramps on 2 of the 4 sides of the building.
I know.
Yeah.
You can't,
But
I'm sure
again,
you've thought of
that's,
it.
that's site plan after we get through the first 2, the demolition and the subdivision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Thank you.
Come on down, Paul.
One down for a long time. We appreciate your patience. Getting warm again.
It is.
Go for it.
Well,
This shouldn't be, this has already been previously approved. This
Something I said that
It should be
everybody.
procedural at best.
Good night.
Thanks, good to see you.
So upstate, I'm not even gonna ask you what these people do because it doesn't matter. I mean, what?
Well, they do real estate and home stuff. Home says home and real
I
estate.
thought that, the 100 mile did the
Yeah,
same
so
thing.
homes and architecture, they provide architectural services and they also do like spec built homes, I believe. That's what the website details.
So the signs are the same size, hanging in the same spot?
Yeah, more or less. You know, I think we came back, I can't remember when we did this first, like I think it was 2022, when Carl from M West Holdings acquired the building, and we kind of created a signage plan, like a sort of a master sign plan for that building. And at that point, here's the challenge. 100 Mile has moved out because we're doing some stuff for their Hyde Park showroom. So we've got a request to take their sign down. So I know that that's going away, but the amount of space on the second floor was substantial, and I guess from what I understand, from Brendan Dwyer, who's the property manager, and through Carl, I've emailed him. They split up the second floor into 2 individual leasable spaces. So what they've given permission to Upstate Modernists to do would be to do a similar situation, like I guess 100 Mile was on the top and Rouse and Company was on the bottom, so it's like a top-bottom,
Like your-
right.
like
So
your diagram.
yeah, basically, if you go to the second page, you'll see what the
Okay.
actual things are. But it's the second floor is the top building, and the first floor is the lower building. So if you go to the next one, did I send you the updated images?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry. I thought I did. Essentially, 100 Mile goes down. That's coming off. There's going to be an open space right there, and then Rouse and Company will be below, as it is right now.
No, I added that to the farm.
I don't remember seeing the Houlihan sign in there, I must have.
Yeah, those are from the original when the
Okay.
spaces were still being leased. I can forward that to you. Essentially, we're just dealing with 4 modules of signage, and it's just kind of a moving stuff around so it fits.
But previously there were 3 modules, correct? Because 100 Mile had the whole second floor.
No, actually, the north sign bracket was taking into consideration the sub-level, like the basement.
Yeah, there used to be a playroom for the Liberty
Correct.
Tavern that was there, they had functions down
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it's a really cool space down
Nice
there, but
space.
I don't think that a lot of people have come forward in the last few years to, want to have that type of
Like a
subterranean.
shelter out on Market
Yeah,
Street that's
yeah.
underground.
Yeah, so I think
So
they're taking a gamble on that, honestly, because this is all of the square footage that they have, to be honest with you.
that was
So they're gonna
my
occupy
question.
half of the second floor?
Hmm?
They're gonna be in half of the second floor.
Yeah, I mean, they're providing 6 square feet? Yeah, 6 square feet to the second floor tenant, which originally was divided into 4 spaces. The whole second floor, left and right of the first floor, and then the entire basement. It was 4 spaces.
Right.
I asked them, are you sure you want to do this? Because you're gonna have to, if you do get a tenant in the basement, you're either gonna have to shortchange one of the tenants, or you're gonna have to go for a variance, and you may or may not get it.
We also have done a long and careful calculation of the parking lot in the back, allocating spaces to the various entities in that building. I don't know if that,
It doesn't change, Chair.
It doesn't change?
No,
Okay.
because you're actually going from a retail business to a professional office.
Yeah, I think what is happening is 100 Mile was retail. This is definitely very much a professional office. It's not a retail environment. And I think one of the reasons why 100 Mile moved out just wasn't a lot of foot traffic to go upstairs. So. I think their online presence and other opportunities to sell merchandise far exceeded the need to have a second floor showroom in Rhinebeck.
So the concept is there's 4 signs that
We have 4
Comprise the-
available spaces that the landlord has decided to grant the north top space to Upstate Modernist. It's well within the pre-approved plan that we had proposed back in 2022. Will it work for the future? I don't know.
and that would be if they lease the basement, then they would
Correct.
have to decide what to
Correct.
come back and.
Yeah, I mean, that's
talk to
kind
their
of
tenants.
like pushing that into the future, and,
Right.
may or may not happen. I think it's like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush,
Right.
as a landlord. Let's lease the space and we'll worry about that later.
And actually, today we'd only be at 75% of sign capacity because it's only really 3 signs that'll be there.
Correct. But I mean, I assume that, that the space that 100 Mile vacated will be an opportunity to lease. Someone will go in there, or perhaps, State Modernist takes over that, I don't know. I think they're
We
two-
wanted to try, we're gonna do what you did with Victoria
Mhm.
on the property below the traffic light, south of the traffic light, where we did a calculation for all the businesses in that building,
Mhm.
and figure out how much signage they need, get a variance for X square feet, and then that building is set. If we need to do that, we can do that.
Yeah,
again.
and I think that there's a good opportunity to do that in the future if need be. It's not something that is, I don't really like to do that because it's just really messy and complicated and time consuming.
And of course, it might take, we have to relook at the parking lot calculation. See
yeah.
If we've done some kind, if there's an extra, we subdivided an office into 2 offices and stuff.
Yeah,
Then we might need a
absolutely.
parking spot. We'll have to look at that, but
I like
let's
the easy
address
stuff.
I like it. Let's play with the players that are on the field today. I'll worry about future draft choices.
Yeah, I don't know what my next picture is gonna look like when we draft them next year, but, you know, I've just got to
Well,
put
here's
somebody
how-
on the mound today.
And I think this looks okay to me.
Is that, refresh my memory, are those lights existing?
Yeah, they're currently in place.
Okay.
There's 2 per.
Okay.
They met all the requirements when approved. They're fairly low voltage. I don't think they were, I mean, you can go and look at them right now, they're on.
Yeah.
I think there is one,
It's too hot to
there's
walk
one
around.
fixture, and it's the one facing Montgomery Street that appears to be out from the last night photo that I took. We'll probably have to change the bulb on that one when we switch the signs. But,
So, what we're looking at tonight is putting upstate modernist and pretty to think so is already there?
It is.
Okay.
It's at the top
So,
building, it's
yeah.
gonna go down to the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah, and
And,
the only difference is that it's the existing sign and this will be
Yeah.
added.
Yeah, we have some
Replacing-
longer sign brackets made up, and Pretty to Think So will go on the bottom, which will be logically like, you know, at the lower level, and Upstate Modernist will be above.
Mhm.
There's some interior lettering that goes inside the building, really. It's no concern of the planning board because it's an interior thing, but it's just, they have a little wall-mounted directional with some lettering that just says,
I
you
do
know.
like that the sign says what they do.
You know, descriptive text is very important to you, David. And,
It is.
And to be honest, as somebody who is like a really into function, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Especially a bar restaurant, so you could.
Big bar.
Yeah, it doesn't
Simple.
really take away from the square footage. You can
Joe's
certainly
Barber
communicate
Shop.
that very easily.
Yes.
You know.
So, and
What-
there's no.
Darren, what's on your signs?
Design build.
Leaves a lot of room for interpretation, but I understand what design is,
Says something.
and I
Knows how to
understand
restaurant.
what building is. So,
Yes.
you know.
So on the application here, A, B, C. So can you update the application to put who's gonna actually be there and what they're? So in other
Well,
words,
those are the existing
That's
ones.
existing, he's just being
Those are the existing
yeah.
ones. And so
100
100
miles
Mile will
leaving.
go away.
Yeah, but
Right.
Upstate Modernist isn't existing yet, because they haven't moved in yet.
Right, right. But basically, the signage is allowed for the building,
Right.
right? Which is why however many were in the building, you'd say this is what they are and this is what they add up to prove that you haven't exceeded the building a lot, right?
Right, we're at 24 square feet, and I think we have 25.5. We have 1.5 square foot left.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
But
So,
right now, when I applied for this, I can't remember when it was, but it was, 100 Mile was still in place. When I remove that, that will go away, and there'll be another, 6 square feet available to a future tenant.
You actually have 7.5 left over, not 1.5.
Yeah, 7.5, but I think they're keeping it at 1.5 square foot. I don't know why. I couldn't divide it, just wanted to keep it whole numbers.
Anything else?
I guess can I have a motion to approve the sign for Upstate Modernist?
I'll make the motion, Darren.
I'll second it. Mike.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Paul.
I will try to apply earlier. I didn't realize you guys were meeting in the 16th of July. You are. So you're just missing one
One meeting in July, one meeting in August, and we picked it out, but at least we have 4 people. I
Okay.
was worried if we got down to 3.
Okay, because I have mistakenly told a client that they don't meet in July, so I may revisit that.
Okay.
It's a client that's looking to open in mid-August, so
No,
I
we always
will
try to have one
revisit
July,
that
one
application. I
August.
He just contacted me yesterday, and I said, well, the earliest you can meet is, was it August 6th? You have it August 6th?
Yes.
August, we had to move that up because if we made it in the middle of the month, we might lose 2 people. We only
Okay.
have 3 people there.
I got
So again, the
8,
problem is the
6
summer.
and 7/16 are my choices.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's good news, because I just thought I was gonna take July off, but I guess I can't do that. I mean,
Submission deadline July 3rd.
well, I'm hosting
Hopefully it'll cool
I'm hosting 2 exchange students for the Rhinebeck exchange. And
From
one of them was here 5 years ago when she was much younger, and my kids were doing the choral stuff, which is fun. So
Michael's always working on interviewing people
yeah.
to come in. It's one of his 400 jobs that he has.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your support, and it's good to see you.
I'll talk to you tomorrow about Mill Street.
Thanks, Paul.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we're not gonna do the Clark thing?
No, they're not.
Bye-bye.
July
They're
16th.
not ready.
Have a good night, Paul.
16th. We have 2 sets of minutes and then a question from Dan.
Okay, which one do you wanna do first?
Well, we did the 2
April
minutes.
2nd.
Oldest first.
Oldest first. We'll do, so the April 2nd?
Okay, here we go.
Is it April 2nd?
Yes, April
I
2nd.
like we did. I want
Here
again,
it is.
thank you 2 guys for volunteering for this suicide mission. I don't know why your red comes out blue, your blue comes out red. on this.
Okay,
I don't
well,
know.
I
it's,
just say revisions now.
it's,
I know.
I'd like to call it burgundy. So for
Burgundy.
example, mine are in red.
Oh, yes, it's a very
and-
subtle.
And Darren's are in kind of burgundy underlined.
Right,
So,
we can do what Darren
go
said.
through these. Have you had a chance to look at them? Any
I looked at them.
questions?
I was fine with them.
I was
Okay.
fine with them.
So you're saying we're good with the,
Is this 4-2 or 4-6?
I don't know what to say.
April 2nd. All right, then I'll make a motion to approve the Village of Rhinebeck Planning Board minutes of April 2nd, 2024 as amended.
I'll second that.
All's in favor?
Aye. Okay, now we've got the next
May 7th.
one, which is April 16th.
Oh, we do? It says May 2nd.
No, we got.
Oh.
We didn't
we're
get to
still-
those
We didn't
yet.
get to
we're
that
only-
yet.
We did 2 last time, we're doing 2 this time, and there's still 2 more we're behind, but we're getting close.
Okay.
Once again, mine are in red, Aaron's in burgundy.
I will look
underlined.
closer at the edits
Okay.
next time
Uh,
for the color. No,
Any questions on,
there appears to be
Any-
less burgundy and red.
yeah,
Yeah. Long set of minutes,
Here we go.
but
It's a long, long set of minutes, yes.
nice work
Long
on
meeting.
accurate.
Very long minutes.
are we good here then?
Yep.
Motion to approve the Village of Rhinebeck Planning Board draft minutes of 4/16/2024 as amended.
Do you have a second? I'll make a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
And Darren has
Next.
a question.
Darren had a question. So this is maybe just something for Ken and Justin. I know we are the planning board and we are not responsible for enforcing our decisions. But it, just in a.
Some of those things you took pictures of look pretty bad.
Well, I'm not so worried about the broken fascia board there on the porch. I mean, that's just, they broke it off so they could work around it fast. But what I was pointing out here is that, you know, we granted approval to do work on this historic home. And we granted a second round of approval, amending the first, allowing the front of the building siding to be replaced. A case was made that it was in too bad a condition to keep, which is fine. The thing that I'm pointing out here, and I wonder if, you know, Mr. Amendola even realizes, you know, his guys did this, because it's not uncommon what they did here. But what they did was they sort of took every opportunity to wrap everything in a trim board so that they could butt the siding into it nice and cleanly, which is, you know, a common detail nowadays, you know, something from maybe the 80s or 90s and beyond, but not the detail that originally appeared on this historic home and not the detail that appeared on the plan submitted to us, and also not in compliance with, I think it's paragraph 8 of our resolution, which said that they'll recreate the siding and trim as a duplicate.
So this, so number 7, 8, number 7 and 8
Mhm.
read, so number 7 reads, windows and door trim shall be recreated to match the original profiling with respect to heads, legs, sills, and stools, and shall be accurate in terms of size and proportions, including reveals from the abutting clapboard siding.
Correct, and then read 8.
Exterior trim elements, including but not limited to fascias, soffits, rakes, skirt, frieze, and corner boards, shall be accurate in terms of sizing and proportions, including reveals from the abutting clapboard siding. Photos and dimension details shall be added to the permit drawings submitted to the building department. So this new trim, we would call it?
Call it new trim in a location there wasn't previously trim. And if you go to
Okay.
the photo of the original real estate listing and also the
Correct.
plan submitted, you can see it, and it was certainly in the spirit of the meeting and what's written that, you know, if trim didn't exist there, you don't add it new.
So can you refer that to Ken?
And my hope here is that he catches them in time. They haven't finished the siding, so this should be a pretty quick adjustment. And where they might have to replace siding, it's very, very short boards. So my intent was to catch it now and not wait till CO inspection and make it a
Right.
bigger deal later. So hopefully it's just a quick conversation.
Darren, this has nothing to do with number 12.
Read 12.
In areas where replaced exterior siding may be constructed of James Harding plank, LP smart side, true exterior or wood clapboard installed with a 5-inch reveal and a smooth, not wood grain face.
No,
Okay.
no, this is all about,
Number 7 and number 8.
yeah, it's putting trim where it didn't previously exist.
Okay.
So, if you want to see the picture of the old, it's in there, and so is the original exterior in their plan set, and so is the proposed exterior in their plan set, just a couple images down in this PDF. It also exists at the bottom of the porch, by the way, Jeff, if you go to the next image. There's
I
5
will,
images.
I will contact Justin right after
So
we're
that's,
done here.
well, before you go, that's what it was.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And then if you go to the next image, you can see a similar interpretation.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next 2 images are what they submitted from their architect, which also don't show that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good, so you get that to Ken. I also want to note that in this document, the arrows are blue, not burgundy. Notice that.
Very fair.
It worked very well on this one.
Well, nice catch, because that's really,
Yeah, that
Pretty
looks
neat.
hideous.
It's kind of like Trump throwing the hurricane in Alabama.
Big Will magic one. Anything else, gentlemen?
No.
Nope.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're going to get this edited as quickly as you can so John
Yes,
can see it when he
yeah,
gets
yeah.
back? Okay.